It's difficult to accept, but this video shows that even if you give her everything, she won't care. We're discussing a harsh truth that most men don't want to confront, and women don't care about everything you do for them. You could give her presents, help her with her issues, and be there for her around the clock. But if she will either lose interest in you or begin treating you like a jerk if you don't give her what she truly wants. You're interchangeable, and you'll be sitting there wondering how she could leave like that after everything I did. Welcome to the channel where we have direct, honest, and sugar-free conversations with men covering today's topic. The 5 things women need to know is uncomfortable but essential. Truly desire, and why your efforts are in vain without them. This isn't about detesting women. Rather, it's about comprehending them as the moment you realize what a woman values most. Stop wasting your time beneath all the kind remarks and quotes on social media. Why spend time and money on things that don't make a difference? People walk all over men because they think that being kind, devoted, and being giving will win her over automatically. But attraction doesn't work that way. According to this video, women are more attracted to impact than to effort. Is going to eliminate the illusions. There will be no more speculating or hoping that a decent man will suffice. I'll go over 5 essential things with you. When you realize what women truly desire from men, you'll stop being forgiving and begin to stand out. Let's dissect everything step by step. First, men's desire is not equal to their effort. 1. Desire is not the same as effort. Brought up to think that the more work you do, the more you'll be valued. And this is true in sports, school, and in the workplace. But when it comes to women, that reasoning can backfire. Women don't always want a man simply because he makes an effort, but it's actually too much, especially at such a young age. It can make you appear low value, emotionally needy, and desperate. The uncomfortable reality is that you're doing a lot, which is why it's not attractive. Does not imply that she has feelings for you. Her desire is emotional and not rational. Doesn't think, wow, he bought me dinner twice, and texts me every morning. I guess I should like him now. How it works. She wants to experience an inexplicable pull toward you, and that pull comes from confidence and presence rather than effort. Here's how unpredictable it goes. A man meets a woman and begins doing. He does everything for her, including giving her rides, buying her presents, complimenting her, and believes that by answering every message in a matter of seconds, he is demonstrating to her his seriousness and commitment. But viewpoint. It seems strange too quickly, and she begins to question. Why is he making such an effort? What does he want from me? And why is he idle? Now compare that to a man who expresses interest without going overboard. He has his own life, his own rhythm, and he doesn't throw himself at her. That man piques her interest without attempting to win her over. Something. And when that sensation develops into attraction, the lesson is straightforward. Without impact, your efforts are in vain, and your level of effort is not evaluated. Desire is based on how you make her feel, so work smarter, not harder, because all the nice guys would be married by now if it were just hard work. 2. She wants emotional strength, not physical presence. Second, she wants emotional strength rather than presence, which is something that most men desire. Never realize that women prefer men who make them feel good rather than those who give them the most. The most. It doesn't matter what you give her. What matters is how you influence her emotionally. Many men believe that gifts can purchase love or loyalty. They believe that if they continue to give her favors or continuous attention, she will see their worth and pick them. But in reality, women desire emotional power. They want to feel that they are the center of your attention in a relationship, energy that is not entirely under your control. It is a power dynamic. Most men cede control without even realizing it, which allows you to spend money, plan every aspect of her birthday, and give her royal treatment. But she still may experience emotional detachment because it's not about what you're providing information about how she feels around you and whether she feels as though she has complete control. Certainty and emotional clout quickly loses interest. She prefers stimulation over being worrisome. She desires an emotional journey rather than flawless routine predictability or romantic emotional engagement. Desires to experience tension, curiosity, and anticipation. She desires the type of relationship that keeps her somewhat surprised, rather than a man who constantly tries to gain her favor. Most men make the mistake of confusing pleasing a woman with providing for her. You can be giving without being weak in those two distinct games of emotions. When a woman grows accustomed to you, you can be affectionate without being erratic, and provide her with a sense of security without granting her complete authority. She becomes bored and begins to see you after you give everything and expect nothing in return. She can handle you rather than craves you. And once you lose that emotional edge, the attraction wanes. Recognize this quietly. Women want to feel emotionally alive. Not only are you well treated, but you're a man who has the ability to evoke strong emotions in me, her that keeps her returning. Quit attempting to purchase things that can only be obtained by presence, unpredictability. And number 3, in terms of emotional depth, nice guys are her safety net, not her choice. 3, she doesn't choose nice guys. They are her safety net. I've heard it before. It seems like wise counsel to be kind, respectful, and there for her. It makes sense on paper, but in practice, the so-called nice guy is used rather than chosen. Let's face it, a nice guy is the emotional spare. When things go wrong, she calls a guy who listens, supports, and gives without asking, question, and waits for her to notice him at last. But in his heart, even he realizes he's not her first pick. Women do this because he's the safe one. Those who value nice guys will say things like, "He's so sweet," or "He's always there for me." However, take note of how they say those things. Well, the issue with safety is that they are texting someone they are genuinely attracted to. You can be the guy who gives her everything and still not be the man. So attraction and home don't always reside together. The man she fantasizes about thinks about her desires and is the one who makes her feel something. The more predictable you are, the less likely you are to nod in agreement and say, "Yes, let me give it to you straight." The nice guy never backs down or challenges you, no matter how invisible you get. He goes above and beyond to ensure her comfort and never says no. He becomes forgettable. The worst part is that women don't dislike nice guys. Rather, they dislike niceness without edge, doesn't have gravity. Consider it. When was the last time someone displayed magnetic, attracted to a doormat? She senses that the nice guy has control over her, the loss of emotional fervor and mystery tension. If she can foretell your every action, if she is aware that you will always be there, regardless of how she feels, forced to pick you since she knows you'll wait, and you're not a challenge. Guarantee, and no one is thrilled about it. Women are sensitive, beings who seek contrast, and seek a man who is grounded, but not submissive, nice but not flinching, accessible but not desperate. May I ask you a question? Have you ever sat there as the person she vented to about her real boyfriend? As you listen to her gripe, you bite your tongue and think, if only she could see But that's the trap, and that's how you become the emotional support system. Being a nice guy isn't bad, but being an animal isn't the man she wants. Whoever avoids conflict at all costs is an emotional self-destructor, suppressing your own demands and expectations in the hopes of receiving love in return. However, attraction doesn't work that way, and she doesn't remember your kindness. She senses your energy and will give you tentative approval if it is weak. The default setting, which is the bare minimum, is seeking you out nice. At the very least, your strength, direction, and capacity to say, "This or what make you unique doesn't work for me." Polarity is created when people walk away when necessary. That's what builds respect. And desire stoicism is based on respect. Shows us that a man's tranquility cannot be reliant on other people, including women. You've already ceded your power, Marcus Aurelius. If you're always waiting for her approval to feel complete, didn't seek approval mentita. He quietly developed himself from the inside out. Here is a straightforward shift stop that is persistently circling her life like a satellite start. If she fits, she fits. If not, you don't. Live like a star in your own universe. The energy shift is so strong that it transforms you from a fall, return from tolerable to unforgettable focus. So if you've been caught in, let this be your chance to escape the nice guy trap. Not by getting cold, not by pretending, but demonstrating your worth and refusing to exchange time for anything else, attention and effort, in the slim chance of being chosen for the comment below that I've seen. If you've ever been the person she called before someone better arrived, this, and keep in mind that you become impossible to choose once you stop trying. She thinks you're weak if you disregard number 4, validation. So let's get this out of 4. According to her, validation weakens you. Everyone enjoys receiving praise and compliments, and it feels good to be told that the words "wonderful" or "you mean a lot to me" are exactly what the ego needs. But when hearing those things, especially from her, is essential to your sense of value, women can tell you're pleading for validation when you're not getting it. Here's what you need to know about behavior that seeks validation. It's not just ugly, repulsive, and gives her the impression that you don't think highly of yourself. That when she notices that something changes, you need her to tell you that you're a man before you feel like one. She may not even be aware of it, but she no longer looks up to you. Instead, she looks down, intentionally. But the polarity shifts as a result of the man who is continuously pursuing. Those who require continual reassurance don't take the lead. Instead, they follow and follow. Let me tell you straight out, energy kills attraction. When you over-explain yourself to get compliments, ask yourself, you're bleeding every time she becomes silent or shows signs of anxiety. When she doesn't validate your presence, masculine energy, and you're aware of it in your heart, you understand what it's like to shrink in a moment when you ought to have remained composed and apologized for your expectations so she wouldn't. It's awkward to modify your speech to prevent her from withdrawing, but it's not performance, which is strength. And each time you do it, you teach her not to. I don't mean to imply that you should be aloof or robotic, but respect yourself now. Your core identity and center cannot be put up for auction each time she's You cannot delegate your sense of value to her attention when you do that. Teach her that no woman wants to be in a situation where your value is negotiable. Charge of your confidence, which is exhausting and not sexy. She wants a man who's rooted, people who can tolerate conflict or even silence without recoiling. See the Stoics' knowledge, as Epictetus stated centuries ago. If you wish to improve and be happy to be perceived as stupid and foolish. Why? Since they understood that other people's opinions, particularly their temporary approval, are not always reliable. A man who practices stoicism knows that you cannot build a grounded life on the whims of other people, doesn't suppress his feelings. He simply keeps his emotional keys to himself. Otherwise, how do you overcome the need for approval? You begin by recognizing when she leaves you on that subtle, little moments that give you a little anxiety, emotional dip when you feel misunderstood, and the need to clarify. She is less receptive. Notice it, call it out, and then take action. Rather than waiting for it to happen, ask yourself, what would the man I want to do, based on the principle and direction, become the man that's doing this now, not the frightened boy or the eager pleaser. She senses that when you begin living from the place where your power resides, your energy changes from needy from waiting to be selected to already being magnetic, from reactive to composed. I thought you should leave a comment below if you've ever caught yourself pursuing validation and felt less as a result. And if this struck you deeply, it should, since most decent men get stuck here. They're not weak. They're just wired to determine approval and identity. But that wiring is susceptible to breakage and reconstruction, substituted with self-leadership, clarity, and composure. If that's what you desire, this channel is for men, not passive listeners. In order to increase subscribers who have finished defending themselves, pleading to be noticed, and are prepared to take responsibility for their presence. And if you're serious regarding leveling up, become a member of the Brotherhood. Gain access to deeper, training behind-the-scenes discussions, techniques, and resources that we don't share publicly. There is no gimmicks or fluff, just men growing stronger. So hit that. Click the subscribe button and enter, as approval won't make you strong. Creating a memorable number 5 mystery beats by developing yourself from the inside out. 5. Consistency is always inferior to mystery. Let's be honest. If you've ever felt that I simply need to demonstrate consistency, I'm trustworthy, or if I continue to be reliable, she'll eventually recognize my worth. You're already losing the game. You don't even realize you're playing because, in the realm of attraction, particularly mystery surrounding female attraction, consistently outperforms consistency, even though I realize that may sound incorrect. We've all been taught that being dependable, accessible, and consistent is what gives a woman a sense of security and certainty. But most men overlook this. You show up every day and text, but consistency without polarity becomes monotonous. Good morning. You check in, schedule the dates, and give her constant praise. You're steady, predictable, and safe. But you do it gradually, so she doesn't even notice, begins to feel flat, which is understandable, given that a woman's ability to predict everything, she stops feeling anything. You don't excite her, so you're going to say do or feel. You don't arouse curiosity or establish emotional gravity. Nervous system knows what's going to happen before it does, which stifles desire. Let's dissect it. It feeds on uncertainty and requires space and contrast. I don't have him yet, but it's a healthy kind of insecurity that causes her to lean in, replay your words, and wonder what you're thinking. That gap is filled by nice, consistent guys who go above and beyond, overcommit, and don't give anything away. While the texting guy, back when he feels ready, who doesn't overshare, who arrives erratically but purposefully, that man leaves a trace of emotional strain. And it is this strain that gives rise to attraction today. To be clear, mystery is not the same as manipulation or playing. Maintaining a life is more important than playing games or acting aloof to get a response. An identity and rhythm that aren't solely focused on her. They're about being unavailable at times, not because you're attempting to discipline her, but rather because you're occupied with creating something related to it, keeping some aspects of yourself unsaid. Not phony, but not on display. Here's a fact that most men are unaware of. When you leave a woman to figure out something, she becomes emotionally. She makes the plot, builds the tension, and returns your thoughts. The only thing you needed to do was to avoid overexposing yourself. Not knowing every detail is what keeps you interested in a good film. It's the tension, the gradual disclosure, the unresolved query. And the women who aren't quite familiar have similar emotional frequencies, but the kind demeanor he displays, I'm prepared to watch the entire movie in the trailer, which has no tension or edge. Be yours. And although that seems admirable, it eliminates the mystery that keeps her interested. When used excessively, consistency makes her feel at ease, and when she is at ease without attraction, stoicism slowly kills her. This is exactly right. The Stoic man isn't acting or flaunting himself. Less talk, more observation, more intentional action. And most importantly, he doesn't elaborate unless absolutely required. Marcus Aurelius didn't write. The author wrote, make sure they understand you. Spend no more time arguing what a good man should be won. Therefore, don't ruin the edge by giving away the mystery. Do not compromise your dignity for continuous attention by pursuing approval. Strongest men are aware of when to make an appearance and when to hide in the shadows. Post a comment below saying, I felt that. If you've ever noticed a change in energy when you stopped being so accessible, and the key is to be difficult to forget when she is unsure of the situation, not to play hard to get, where she is standing with you, but she feels calm leadership and depth. Her thoughts begin to positively spiral as she considers what you're doing. You're considering your next words, and that tension draws her in. Isn't it about concealing? It's about retaining space, power, and just holding back, enough to remain clear in her memory. So make sure your values are constant. Mission your way. But don't mistake emotional openness for closeness. Use it and observe how availability and magnetism can be confused to your advantage. Number 6. What will happen next? She wants to feel challenged. 6. Instead of being worshipped, she wants to feel challenged. Without getting ahead of ourselves, she doesn't want a fan. Desires a force, and if you believe elevating her, complimenting her on all of her accomplishments, and treating her as a boy, you're going to have a rude awakening, because the perfect goddess will make her stay. She finds that type of worship to be hollow, even though it may seem romantic to you. Women are drawn to polarity rather than perfection, and polarity isn't derived from. Worship originates from challenge, but challenge no longer entails nagging or argument, or starting arguments, which is immaturity. The true challenge is dynamic. It's the spirit of, I'm here to meet you where you're strong, and push, not to impress you. When you're soft, you can disagree with her without worrying that she'll When she pushes your boundaries, it's calling for you to leave her out to raise her standards rather than to damage her ego. Because whether she admits it or not, she wants to experience some emotion and emotional stress. The proper kind is what sustains that spark. Let me ask you a question. Have you? You've always gone above and beyond for her, and you always say the right thing to maintain harmony. You repress your true feelings and observe her slowly. Lose interest. That's the worship trap. Not bad luck when a woman detects that you're shaping yourself to fit her, never resisting, never taking the initiative. She might initially take pleasure in the attention, but eventually the energy changes and you become. No woman respects someone who is predictable, soft, and easy to control. The moment she feels more masculine than the man she can dominate, her attraction to him wanes. Worship does just that. It reverses the polarity, making you no longer you turn into the emotional follower, grounded leader, and even if she stays, she's internally. I've already pulled away, but now comes the challenge. When you challenge her on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level, everything changes. You can stimulate her growth and something more profound than mere attraction. She respects her instinct and wants to come see you. But the challenge doesn't mean control. It's about being strong in your own way, not about snatching power, values, and urging her to follow suit. It's saying to her, I hear you, but I disagree, and refusing to back down when she displays an attitude that says no when she anticipates that you will give her your full attention, not to punish her, not present it as a trophy, but rather as a place to hold her when she's upset, without attempting to console or appease her, being motionless like an unmoving mountain. That sort of presence, that's what makes her lean in, is that she wants to feel as though she is with someone who can see her clearly and doesn't want to be ripped. She doesn't lose sight of her beauty because of her imperfections, which highlight her brilliance. She respects you when you see her without being blinded by her. And when she listens and appears differently. And she respects you in every way, loves in different ways. And that's where being stoic gives you an advantage that most men don't have. Stoic men don't follow chaos or look up to anyone, including women. Love. They enter into partnerships with definite values, emotional self-control, and grounded sense of self. And as a result, they inherently confront the world surrounding them, including her. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no time worrying." He didn't say, "Flatter those who matter, what other people think of you." So quit asking how to win her approval instead, even if no one applauds or comments. I live in a way that demands respect. If you've ever lost someone because you were too cautious or kind, I feel that below, too nice because you were supposed to be a mirror, reflecting strength back at her, not a worshiper, firmly and calmly without expressing regret. And here's the lovely twist. When you challenge, she shows up more completely, feels more alive, and respects you more. Stop playing small and have hope, because that connection doesn't burn out. It evolves. She will continue to push her to succeed, and if she is unable to do so, she will let the man go. Instead of worshiping women, he encourages them to be number 7. Being wanted is different from being needed, is not the same as being wanted. Many men fall victim to this dangerous illusion, and it's the notion that she will remain by your side if she needs you, somehow wins her heart by resolving her issues, cheering her up when she's feeling low, and guiding her through the chaos of life. Even though it seems noble and masculine, the unvarnished truth is that it is not similar to being desired, but occasionally it's the reverse, since need generates. Dependency is about survival, not desire, which is why a woman may cling to it. To you for convenience, comfort, or fear. But clinging isn't a decision. Clinging is survival. And believe me, you don't want to cultivate that kind of energy. Attraction indicates that you have a purpose when someone needs you, wants you. You are the object of desire, and if you are sincere with yourself, you have most likely been the recipient. End of this. Perhaps you were present when she was alone, and perhaps she sobbed on. She leaned on you, either financially or emotionally, and vented about her life over your shoulder, and you felt needed and significant in that chaos. But as soon as she stabilized, her energy changed as her life began to come back together. She abruptly withdrew, making you less interesting because she no longer needed you. And it hurts when you realize that she never really wanted you. You believed that showing up earned you a place at the table because you believed your presence meant something more profound. but all. It did make you useful, but that doesn't imply that it's magnetic. Let it sink in. Being appreciated for who you are indicates that you were easily replaceable. Stoicism instructs us to pursue clarity rather than solace, and clarity entails confronting the given that being someone's emotional support system differs from being their emotional magnet. How do you identify the difference here? When someone wants to interact with you, when they don't have to. They don't experience a crisis or an emotional breakdown for you out of desire rather than desperation. They cherish your opinions even when they're feeling fine. They get closer even when they're not broken, even when they have room. And you understand the type of man who is drawn to the one who isn't attempting to be needed, a man who is rooted in his identity and not waiting to fix things, rather than bending himself into usefulness. He's not seeking brokenness to feel strong. He's looking for someone to make him feel important, merely exudes strength. And let me say that energy draws people in. Once more, being wanted is about your presence, and being needed is about her absence. Because your value is based on how much someone needs you, you will always look for unstable, chaotic, or emotionally delicate, since you feel most significant there. But that's not. Power is a trap. You should never let someone else determine your worth. Dysfunction. You wish to be coveted. Quit presenting yourself as a remedy and begin appearing as a typical man who has boundaries and leaves. When the one-sided dynamic from a man who doesn't mistake sympathy for cooperation, because the harsh reality is that you are eventually creating a time bomb when you establish a connection based on need. If the relationship was never founded on genuine desire on both sides, she will outgrow the time when she needed you. Will she wither as soon as she gets back on her feet? I've noticed this. Have you ever been dumped the moment she no longer required your help? It's a painful lesson, but once you recognize the pattern, it wakes you up. You quit trying to prove yourself, and you stop falling for the damsel in distress. You begin to appear as a man who adds value by being the fixer. When a woman meets a man, the difference is not because someone is lacking something, but rather because you are already full, who is profoundly masculine and present even when they are not needed. Don't try to be her rock, because that's when true attraction starts, because she's sinking like the mountain that remains unutilized in either case. The less you react, the more she will never be mistaken for a tool number 8. She feels more when you don't react, feels that the man who doesn't react is something that no one told you when you were growing up. Let's take a closer look at the one she can't stop thinking about. Most men are taught to be emotionally available and quick to react in relationships. Verify frequently, and don't let her doubt herself for too long. The idea is that if she will feel safe and loved because you're always there and emotionally available. But in actuality, being overly responsive frequently backfires, which is why, because feelings, particularly those of women, do not flourish in complete stability. They flourish in polarity. And one of polarity's most attended components is now. Don't get this twisted. Restraint isn't being cold. It's not being withdrawn or ignoring people. Rather, it's being calm. The capacity to observe rather than respond, in order to absorb pressure without losing focus, to remain motionless while she tests your frame. Trust me, she will do so, because every woman, on some level, wants to know if she can shake his hand or move him. If the response is yes, can I elicit an emotional response from this man? Every change in mood, text message delay, and withdrawal attempt results in an increase. She no longer views you as a rock, and instead sees you as another, within her impunalcy. But if the response is no, you can stay calm. She is the one leaning in, as the energy abruptly changes from thoughtful to measured, that soothes the tension in men by not reacting. She feels more moved by its emotional gravity than by any text message full of emojis. Curiosity thrives in the 3-paragraph voice note that could, where your silence speaks louder than words, and she wonders what you're thinking. And the tension is the spark that gives her the feeling. Now, this is the part. Most men are unaware that impulsive behavior frequently stems from insecurity rather than care. You're terrified of silence and of losing her attention. You fear that you won't be able to immediately improve the mood. But that fear radiates, and she recognizes herself as the emotional leader as soon as she smells that. And let me tell you, she might remain with you physically if she takes charge of the emotional space. But emotionally, she's already began separating women because they want to feel that leadership isn't control and that they are led, not managed. Its goal is to be calm and to be silent when necessary if she is upset. And you are rushing, frantically apologizing. She feels unsafe and as though she's with her, although the boy is attempting to avoid trouble. If you look her in the eyes and say, "I hear you take your time," you've simply brought a manly vibe into the room. You weren't chased or run after, responded. Instead of reacting, which is power. The less you react, the more she feels. Your lack of response creates space, not because you're playing games, and she thinks, questions, wonders, and processes in that area, considering that she is attracted to you. When was the last time you felt drawn to someone who remained composed under duress and didn't flinch or become agitated? The Stoics referred to this magnetic quality as ataraxia, inner tranquility. Being unflappable, even during emotional upheavals, isn't about being. Being numb means not being bothered by things that don't deserve your attention. Petty arguments, passive-aggressive texts, and emotional energy tests that use baiting to get you to demonstrate your worth that you haven't. Value with responses, which you demonstrate with discipline, stillness, and presence. I felt empty after looking at her, and if you've ever lost control while attempting to keep her close, please comment below. Knows just how to make you feel uncomfortable. You've given her the remote, but when you regain it, not by being icy, but by remaining firm and making it difficult to provoke and begin to become unforgettably remembered. Because when she is unable to move you, she begins to respect you, just like any other guy. And when that respect develops, desire follows. So take a moment to relax. Silence works for you. She needs your attention, not your quick response. Number 9's unwavering presence. If she doesn't earn you. 9. She won't value you if she doesn't earn you. Won't value you. So let's stop deceiving ourselves for a moment. That you must be available and show a woman how much you care in order to win her over. Be kind, be dependable, and simply be present while those things aren't. The harsh reality is that if she doesn't stay, they aren't what keeps her here. Must earn you her respect, which may hurt, but you've seen it happen in your heart. You gave her your time, your heart, your energy, and possibly even your money. You prioritized her over yourself, before your objectives, occasionally before your own dignity. And initially she appeared to thankful, receptive, and perhaps even loving. But then things changed. She gradually grew colder, farther away, less impressed, and less involved. And I'm left wondering what went wrong with the response you provided before she earned it. And neither men nor women value what occurs too readily when you sacrifice your commitment, presence, and attention without being forced to do so or facing any difficulties. She unconsciously files. You're under-available by default, and you want to be available at all times, a reward rather than a consolation prize. Now, let's see what most men fail to understand. Believe that forcing her to earn them entails being aloof or playing hard to get, which isn't. It's more profound. It's about knowing and living by standards rather than rules. What kind of energy is it that accesses you? You're not attempting to discipline her. You're just demonstrating to her your commitment and time presence. Not making things difficult for her to do are only for women who approach you with the same level of honesty, energy, and effort. A woman may find you attractive if she likes the way you earn money to you, but she wouldn't regard you as a valuable man if she didn't have to bring anything to the table to keep you. Perceive you as someone who aspires to be selected, and the instant you begin to chosen, you lose your advantage. A self-aware man doesn't seek love. He allows women to show themselves through their investment, rather than trying to prove himself by being too forgiving by the way they handle his time. Their consistency, the things they provide without being asked, and the times. Access to that man is earned by a woman who respects and values him because she worked for it since she understood the price of being near him. Casual relationships end so fast. There is no process, no tension, and nothing to build. Access and quick burnout follows easy access. But when a woman feels that, she's awake and engaged. But your attention isn't something that can be bought or given away. What is it about this man that makes him so grounded in reality? She asks, intrigued. His worth, at which point her mental and physical attraction intensifies. This is strongly supported by Stoicism. A Stoic man doesn't pursue pleasure or people. He doesn't look for approval or give away his peace, because he knows it comes from within. Like candy, he moves with purpose, and that purpose attracts her. I felt that people were slowly but powerfully, irresistibly commenting below. It hurts if you've ever given too much too quickly and seen her withdraw. Wake up. But it's also essential, since you can now reverse the dynamic you were previously in, being the guy who gives too much and starts to set the standard. Play games. Because you've finally come to terms with the fact that your value is something to be met, not something to be given away. And if she's not prepared to meet you there, instead of lowering yourself to maintain her interest, you rise. And she either rises with you or keeps rising at the same time. Emotional detachment is your superpower, whether it fades quietly behind you or at number 10. Your greatest strength is emotional distance. Let's wrap up by discussing one of the most potent and misunderstood qualities a man can acquire: emotional detachment. I understand what you're thinking, but doesn't that make me feel cold and distant? If you understand it correctly, emotional detachment isn't about pretending or shutting down. You're becoming a stone-faced, robotic monk who doesn't care. Avoidance-based strength is one thing. True detachment is quite another. It's the capacity to experience intense emotions without letting them control you. Ability to maintain composure even when feelings are running high, particularly in relationships, particularly when they are painful. And yes, particularly when it involves her, because most men are unaware that the more emotionally attached you are on her responses, her focus, and her approval, the more authority your center shifts more when you react to every silence, mood swing, and need for conversation. Stop taking the lead. Start pursuing. Stop occupying your frame, and start descending in her world. And that's where the majority of decent men lose their regaining your power through emotional detachment. Enables you to take a break, rather than being afraid to watch her while sitting in discomfort without having to fix it. Refrain from collapsing inside in the face of rejection and cold and hot ghosting behavior, but don't let it consume you. It's what makes you erratic. Not because you're playing games, but rather because you lack emotional independence and dependence. That's alluring, but here's the catch. The man needs her love to feel complete, won't ever earn her complete respect. But the man who can leave and who cherishes she can't stop thinking about peace above her approval. That's what Stoicism teaches you: to be strong and detached, which means you watch your feelings without allowing them to control your life, which indicates that you recognize you don't act like a puppet on the pain, frustration, or desire. Strings you decide how to proceed. And in a world where the majority of people are responding, always a man who makes the decision to be the eye in the room. Rare, valuable. She admires the man who is storm calm, focused, and unwavering. Follows. But the secret is that emotional detachment takes time to develop. Trained each time you fail to respond to a text message in order to elicit a response. Every time you sit in discomfort, rather than expecting a quick fix. Each time you give her space without pleading. You're sharpening the edge. You're becoming as dangerous as you can be if you don't chase without shrinking. Because she can no longer use silence to control you or manipulate you. Withdrawal. Since you removed them from the table, she is unable to irritate you. You're in charge, so leave a comment below if you're finished when your feelings are manipulated. You're prepared to create something more substantial than a reaction. Because the instant you become, everything changes when you become emotionally independent and reply to her texts from choice rather than necessity, and you remain calm and collected when she is far away. You're the rock when things get rough, and she senses that in her body, the way she looks at you has changed due to emotional detachment. Is a throne, not a wall. So you don't need to defend yourself against her. You must choose silence if you want to shield your tranquility from your own frailties. Over chaos, over drama, over clarity, over the fleeting thrill of being wanted by someone who doesn't genuinely recognize your value, which is what makes you exceptional. So no, you're simply too grounded to be tossed around any longer. You're not too cold. Use your superpower. The fact that you survived tells me that, in conclusion, something. You're here to evolve, not to learn fast tricks. It's about you, the man, and not about women at the heart of all this emotional distance and boundaries. When life doesn't hand her over, she chooses to be when no one is applauding. Real masculinity is forged when you do what you want. So are you prepared to develop that version of yourself rather than merely discuss it? This channel is the place to do it. So hit subscribe and join the Brotherhood and join our community of Stoic members. If you're serious about elevating your power, presence, and mindset, that's where we go even further. No nonsense. No diversions, just men acting like. Thank you for watching Inner Work. I'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, remain composed, risky, and never give up control to anyone.